Hey, hello, welcome. It's Bryan and Bryan, or Bryan and Ryan, and
Whichever way you want to go.
it is a Tuesday, September 15th show. We are getting closer and closer to some kind of normal because we had NFL football yesterday, in addition to more college football. Mr. Peterson, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm a little. I don't know. Wasn't real thrilled about the Cowboys last night. Cowboys lose 20-17 to the Rams. I'll let you go first.
Well, first, let me say, so I don't dislike the Cowboys, and I'm not a Cowboys fan. So one of my favorite things, especially when the Cowboys have national games, is I love watching Twitter and going throughout the game and reading people melting down throughout the game. Um, it was a game the Cowboys very easily could have won. And Brian, I think one of the big things, I think concerning stats still after what happened, and we can even go into the call in at the end of the game, which the NFL, by the way, said it was the correct call. I don't
Of course they
necessarily
did.
agree with that, but yeah, they're standing by that call. But in the last 2 years, excuse me, in last season and then week one, the Cowboys are now 1-7 in one-score games, and that's the second worst in the NFL, behind only the Cincinnati Bengals, who screwed up again
Be
yesterday.
nice. Be nice. That's my quarterback you're talking about there.
So, well, yeah, they do have some hope because of Burrow, but it's going to take some time. But my point being, the Cowboys continue to fall short in crunch time. And, it was such a weird – I don't know how you felt. It was funny because in the first half, I guess it was because the time of possession was like 2-1. It felt like the Cowboys were getting dominated, but they were ahead. And you felt like, okay, they're in great shape here. They get it correct in the second half, they'll win this game. And they just could not – and the offense just could not get it going in the second half. The defense actually started playing better, and the offense couldn't get it going.
Well, let's take the defense first. Playing better than what? Because their
Than
defense.
they did in the first half. Than they did in the first half. Because they
They
only allowed they had allowed – it felt like the Rams were going up and down the field in the first
they
half.
were.
And then in the second half, but they held them in the red zone.
Yeah.
They had only – because the Rams had 4 red zone possessions and only had 13 points. But in the second half, they had the one touchdown, and that was it. I did think the Cowboys would – if you had told me the Cowboys would hold the Rams to 20, I would have thought before the game I would have said they're going to win. So that's what probably surprised me the most.
Let me just say that first of all, with the first quarter, when the Cowboys ran 7 plays, the Rams had the ball over 35 minutes in the ball game. Dallas never did figure out how to really stop their offense with all the bootlegs and the misdirections and they just didn't. The only adjustment that I saw Dallas's defense make was that they actually started blitzing in the second half to try to get some pressure and get Goff off schedule. I mean, they didn't try that until the second half. So they waited a really, really long time to let that happen. The defensive line, for the most part, was completely neutralized up to that point. Aldon Smith is a find. Aldon
Right.
Smith is a beast. Was pretty disappointed in the rest of the defensive line. And then you get Van Der Esch, who breaks a collarbone. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. You got the tight end, Jarwin, who's going to be out for the season because the turf tore his knee up. I thought their defense, it was pretty alarming. That was what the problem was last year in a lot of cases, and I thought it was the same thing yesterday. It was very alarming. Offensively, I was a little bit mixed. Mixed. I'm glad they used Zeke like they used him. He had a great game. They used him not only running the football, but catching the ball out of the backfield. I'm very distressed that the Cowboys didn't take more deep shots, but in fairness, I don't think the offensive line did a great job of protecting Dak
Yeah.
last night, so he may not have
Yeah.
had much time to throw the ball deep. CD Lamb did not touch the ball enough last night. Amari Cooper, I don't think, ran a route that was longer than 9 yards the whole ball game.
Yeah.
There was just a lot there that, that you have to unpack. And then you get down to the two major plays in the ball game. 4th and 3 at the 11-yard line late in the game. You're down 3. You kick a field goal. You tie the ball game. Mike McCarthy decided he was going to go ahead and go for it because he felt like he would have chance. There was still enough time left in the ball game, and the defense was starting to get some stops that he could go ahead and possibly, take a lead and put some pressure on the Rams. The problem I had was the play. It's a crossing route to CeeDee Lamb. They needed 3 yards. He runs 2.
A rookie mistake. Yeah.
It gets stopped a yard short. What did you think about the 4th down gamble to begin with?
Okay, again, I can be unbiased in this. I actually was okay that they went for it. Because I thought the Cowboys had the momentum, and I thought there was more than enough time, even if they didn't get it, that they still were going to have time. Because honestly, Bryan, looking at it, it's like, well, they're going to have to score again anyways. So why not? Like you, I didn't love the call running a shallow crossing route, and the rookie runs, doesn't run past the marker. He'll learn from that. I wasn't really that upset because, here's the thing. If they had not gone for it, I think a lot of people would have complained the other way. So like you, didn't love the call, but, it's easy to say that after the play has happened. If he runs an extra yard, he converts, and it's a brilliant play. My biggest concern with the Cowboys offense was the offensive line. And I think, we saw Dak made some throws getting hit that were outstanding. The first completion he made to CeeDee Lamb, Dak got blasted, and he still hit him in stride, and he picked up a huge gain on that play. But the protection just was not there. And look, I know Aaron Donald is a beast in there, but the offensive line looked shaky to me. And I think every year it's like, oh, well, the Cowboys have a good offensive line, and I think they're living off of a reputation from a few years ago, and it's not the same offensive line. Travis Frederick is not there. That's a huge loss. Tyron Smith, when he's there, and Zach Martin, those guys are really good, but the rest of that line, it was shaky, and Dak was getting hit. I think going forward, the offensive line would be my biggest concern, and that Dak just didn't have a whole lot of time, it felt like. And then defensively, it was concerning seeing the Rams, because last year the Rams struggled to run the ball, and last night they were ramming it down their throat.
Well, and to be fair, one of the problems the Rams had last year was they had offensive line injuries.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
brutal.
a good point.
So, the Rams look more like the team that went to the Super Bowl 2 years before. And so they were impressive. I think that there were some things that I did like. I'm like you. I didn't have a great problem. I was surprised at the call, but after 10 years of watching Jason Garrett never do anything like that, I did like that he was that McCarthy was trying to send a message to his team that we're going to be aggressive and we're going to go for it. Now, the thing I've heard a lot of complaints today was that Kellen Moore offense looked just like it did last year. There just wasn't much that looked different from the Cowboys team of last year that went 8-8 and struggled offensively. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. There's always the possibility at some point that McCarthy says, okay, this isn't working. I'm going to take back the play calling. And so I think that's a possibility. I did like – here's something we have not seen in years, and that was some decent special teams. So, you almost blocked a field goal. You almost blocked a punt. You got a decent punt return from CeeDee Lamb at one point in the ball game, where, he gets it out to the 30 as opposed to fair catching it inside the 15 like we saw all last year. So I think there's some things to build on, but the injuries are really concerning, and the Cowboys have got to play well next week. I mean, they play Atlanta. Atlanta should be beatable, and they need to have a good ball game next week, and they really need to start opening that offense up. The offensive pass interference call, as far as I was concerned, that should have been a no call. They were both playing hands, and Jalen Ramsey did a great job of selling it like James Harden. He flopped, and got the call. So bully for him. They did, it was a great throw at a critical time in the ball game, and it just didn't happen. So, unfortunate, disappointing loss. Not ready to, jump off a building yet, but certainly was hoping for more than 17 points. I was hoping to see a little bit more offense. But the other thing you have to keep in mind is, again, they didn't have the ball that much. So, ball control by the Rams was such that it kept Dallas off the field a lot.
And the Cowboys struggled big time on third down.
Yep.
They offensively, they couldn't stay on the field. That order
3 out of what? 3 out of 14, something like that?
Yeah, so
you can't do that.
Third down is the money down offensively and defensively. So one other thing I want to bring up before we move on, you had brought up Amari Cooper. You're right. Like, all of his routes were so short. And Bryan, look, you can always say this after the fact, but I'm saying this and I'm like, you gave this guy $20 million a year. You're trying to keep your core. I get it. But the Cowboys have good receivers. You gave this guy $20 million a year, and he's running a bunch of 7-yard outs, or they were not challenging the Rams defense. And I don't want to make too much out of 1 week. Perhaps it was just something they saw this week, but I hope that they're more aggressive going forward.
See, that's the thing too. We just don't know, because with no OTAs, no off-season workouts. Dak wasn't in the practices until he got his contract, until he got franchised. You had no preseason. We just don't know. I'm expecting to see something significantly better next week than I saw last night. That's all you can hope for. It's like college football. Because they don't have a preseason. You have the first game, get all the stuff out of the way, correct it, and then hopefully you play a lot better the next week. So that's my takeaway from that. The game that I was most interested in, other than that, actually there were two, but I watched all of the Saints-Patriots game, okay, because I wanted to see Tom Brady and something
Saints-Bucks.
Other than that, the red, white, and blue uniform he's worn for 20 years, it was really hard to get my head around seeing that. But yeah. I also watched a little bit of Cam Newton.
Yeah.
And so the conclusion after game one is that Bill Belichick can win with anybody at quarterback. Tom Brady can't win without Bill Belichick. Kidding. But the thing that we know about Bill Belichick is that Belichick knows how to take the players he has and put them in a position to win. He is not married to a system and making his players fit that system. He changes whatever he's got to change year after year after year. And so you got Cam Newton running the ball 11 times yesterday, scoring on a quarterback sweep, stuff you'd never see with Tom Brady in the game. So I don't think the Patriots are going away. The Bucks, on the other hand, look like a team that still they need to learn how to play together. I think the interception where Mike Evans and Brady were off on their communication, and Brady, it seemed like Evans stopped on the route, Brady sailed it. That was ugly. The pick six, again, you're not used to seeing Tom Brady make those kind of mistakes. But they've got so much talent on that offense that it's got to get better. But I was impressed with the Saints. They didn't play a great game offensively either, but their defense played great, special teams played great, and the Saints did enough that they look like a team that's going to challenge for the Super Bowl again.
So the thing that I thought was interesting, number one, everyone likes to overreact to everything in week one. So like you said, Brady's done without Belichick. The Patriots are great. Brady and the Patriots are great without Brady. But I think there's a few things to take from that. Number one, I would argue, Bryan, that the Saints yesterday are the best divisional opponent Tom Brady has ever faced in his 20 years in the NFL.
No argument.
So if you take that into consideration, one of the reasons I think – now, I'm not questioning Belichick and Brady's greatness. They're obviously all-time greats. What I am saying, though, and I've argued this a long time, what has made them even better is they fed off the worst division in football.
No argument.
Right. So, I think Belichick can be confident, and you saw what the Patriots did yesterday, and everyone's, oh, how great they are. They beat the Dolphins. All right, the Dolphins have been horrible for years, and I'm still not sold that they're going to be great, but I do think in that division, I know Buffalo looks like maybe they're finally getting it together, but I would still take Belichick in that division just because I don't think the division's any good. But in the NFC South now, Brady is left with, your first game is against the Saints. And like I said, we both agreed he never played a team that good in his division in his life.
And they had the advantage of playing the Saints in a fanless stadium.
Yeah.
New Orleans has the best home field next to Kansas City, maybe, and Denver. Those three, I can't think of better home field advantages than those three teams might have. And New Orleans is as good as anybody's. And Tampa had a great advantage. They had a great opportunity because they weren't going to have to deal with that.
Right.
And still got popped.
But if you're Tampa, the way I would look at it is this. That might be the toughest game you have all year. And it reminds me, being a Bronco fan, when Peyton Manning came to Denver back in the 2012 season, people forget, because Manning was so successful in Denver, his first 5 games, they were 2-3. Because they didn't have the timing. He had so many good receivers, but it took them a while to get it together. They had a tough early part of the schedule, and then they reeled off 11 straight wins. I think Tampa Bay has the ability to do that, where it's going to take them, and actually their schedule lightens up considerably. They'll start getting some confidence, and I do still think Tampa Bay is going to be a playoff team. I just think it was a rough way to start the season. They don't have the timing. They haven't been able to have the OTAs and everything like even a normal off season. So I'm not going to overreact. It was disappointing. I thought we'd see more from the Bucs in that game. But like you said, Bryan, the Saints really didn't even play that well, and they still won comfortably.
The other 2 games that really struck me, and I'm just going to hit it quick. I cannot believe the Washington Redskins come from 17 down to beat the Eagles, and then Cincinnati is such a Cincinnati football team that even a kid like Joe Burrow carrying the team on his back can't beat what Cincinnati can always find a way to do, which is lose.
Yeah, I felt for Burrow. I was actually impressed, especially being a rookie and not having any preseason. I mean, that was his first real game action period at the NFL level. And the way he was moving them at the end of the game, it didn't look too big for him. I think even though they lost, and they are the Bengals, I do think that's encouraging. And the Eagles, Bryan, I don't know what else to say. Every year I hear how talented this team is and how good Carson Wentz is. They go up 17-0. It looks like they're going to win by at least 4 touchdowns. I turned the game off because I'm just disinterested. Next thing I know, they're losing. And they gave up, 8 to 10 sacks. It was unbelievable. And the Washington football team, as they are right now called,
Redskins, I apologize.
They were supposed to be brutal this year, and and the Eagles get dominated. I don't know what to make of them. And I think that should give Cowboys fans hope too, that this division, you're not going to have to be great to win it. So
you can win 9. You can win 9 and win the division, no doubt.
Yeah.
Speaking of brutal, how about that Big 12? I'm telling you.
You had to bring that up.
Yes, I did, because I'm an SEC guy, and I've been saying for years the Big 12 is they drive me nuts. The least physical, defense is only a suggestion conference in the world, and not only do they get beaten by a bunch of Fun Belt teams, as they call them, they get hammered. I mean, Iowa State was dominated by Louisiana. Arkansas State, I won't say they dominated, but Arkansas State goes into Manhattan and beats what should be a decent Kansas State team. Kansas gets destroyed by Coastal Carolina.
Kansas shouldn't even count as a Division I team. Let's be honest.
Well, but I'm a Les guy. I like Les, but I know Les has got his issues. And then you get Texas Tech, who has to hang on for dear life against that powerhouse Houston Baptist team, where you give up over 570 yards passing, which actually does make me feel comfortable. It's like an old blanket, man. Texas Tech with zero defense is something you can count on pretty much every year. So that was, I mean, it was just unbelievable. As far as Big 12 is concerned, thank God for Texas and Oklahoma, and they played cupcakes too, but at least they showed up and dominated and did what they were supposed to do. Here's the most Big 12 thing that happened the whole weekend was that the Texas safety, B.J. Foster, quit the team during the third quarter. I'm out. I mean, this is such a Big 12 conference weekend. How does that stuff happen?
Well, and so my uncle played at Kansas State, so I was raised going to K-State games back when they were getting destroyed in the 80s. And, Bill Snyder obviously turned the program around, but I follow K-State, and I watched that game Saturday. And, the sad thing is, and I will admit, Arkansas State, my dad and I were texting, Arkansas State looked like the better team pretty much the whole game. Yes, K-State was ahead at the end, and then Arkansas State scored a touchdown in the last few seconds to win. But they deserved to win. But Bryan, I think the bigger concern in all this is, Texas and Oklahoma both did what they were supposed to do. But if I'm those schools, I am very concerned because where are you supposed to get any marquee wins when your league is losing to Sun Belt teams? When 50% of your league is as soft as the Big 12 appears, Texas Tech. I mean, giving up that many passing yards to Houston, I don't even know how to reconcile that. I don't care if it is Texas Tech. You can't do that. And Iowa State was a team that was supposed to be a dark horse. And they didn't just lose. They were embarrassed. So not a good look for the Big 12. And, we talk about the playoffs and, who should get in at the end of each year. Outside of, if Texas and OU really have visions of wanting to go to the playoff in this league, right? And I don't want to overreact. Kansas State has lost a bad game early in the season before and then had a good year. But if you're OU and Texas, this is concerning because I don't know how you're going to build up the wins that you need that you can argue, yeah, we deserve to be in a playoff.
No, you got no argument.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing you can do is basically what Oklahoma does every year: go undefeated,
right?
And then you got a chance to get in, and then pray that you don't give up, 65 points like they did to LA, or 63 last year like they did to LSU. The most entertaining game, as far as I was concerned, on Saturday was the UTSA Texas State game, which Jeff Traylor, our buddy who used to be at Gilmer, longtime high school legendary coach. Goes out there. It's one of the wildest, ridiculous games I've watched. But, I mean, you talk about 2020 kind of a ball game. Texas State finds out on the day of the ball game that their quarterback, Brady McBride, is not going to be able to play because of contact tracing. They didn't necessarily test him positive, but apparently he was in contact with somebody who was, and the Sun Belt requires that if you are even in contact with somebody, whether you test positive or not, 2 weeks quarantine. So he was out of the ball game. So Vitt comes in, plays pretty well. The thing that I found so funny about it was this is a game that, because the Big Ten and the Pac-12 chose not to play ball, this game would have been on ESPN3, okay, where you'd only see it on a streaming. Instead, it was on the big network, national exposure, and the poor kicker for Texas State misses an extra point and a field goal, both of which would have given them the win in a ridiculous manner. And this one kid, for him, he's going, why? Why did we have to be on ESPN2? Why couldn't we have put this game on the Longhorn Network where nobody could see it? Why couldn't that have been? Why did this have to happen to me? So, but congratulations to Jeff Traylor for win number 1.
I wanted to ask you, you said something that I wanted to talk about real quickly. What did you think of especially the NFL games? What did you think of the television product with no fans? I was getting really annoyed, especially in the Saints-Bucks game. Like, the audio was not matching what was happening. It'd be like a 4-yard gain, and it sounded like they just scored a touchdown. And it was actually, Bryan, in the game last night, I got confused a couple times because I didn't think it was a big play because there was no real reaction, or vice versa. So it kind of messed me up. Like, at times I was like, wait, was there a flag? Did the play get blown dead? It was kind of weird for me.
I do think that some teams probably do a better job of the production with the piped in crowd noise. Just like last night, there was a call in the Rams game that went against the Rams, and the crowd booed. And I saw that same thing in the dome with the Saints. Something happened, and the crowd booed. And I thought, okay, they're hitting it on the right spot. It's Ryan. It's just the whole thing is so bizarre to look at that game. Look at all those games yesterday because there were no fans in any of those games. Kansas City had fans on Thursday night, but to watch those games and see nobody in there it's just apocalyptic.
Yeah.
It's so eerie. The college games, at least you had fans in the stands for most of those games, so it had some sense of normalcy. Was it deafening noise? No, but at least you had bands playing and you had something there that was not artificial, so it made it feel at least a little bit real, maybe like a high school crowd. But yeah, I think they got some kinks to work out. But I'll be honest with you, just the mere fact that you had a full slate of games yesterday in the NFL and they pulled it off is amazing, especially when you see some of the college issues where I'm thrilled they've had a majority of games, but you still lost some ball games. The other thing I think is really funny is that you see how fast teams are picking up games when they lose a game. Houston loses a game. Next thing you know, they're going to be on the big noon kickoff for Fox against Baylor?
Baylor, yeah.
So, just watching people having to pivot and adjust and scramble to get ball games. I just think that's what we're going to get this year in all the football. I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled that for 2 days we had real live football. It almost felt like a normal weekend. And you go back, I know you want to mention Thursday night and Patrick Mahomes. I want to mention Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I watched the kid. I'm an LSU nut, and I watched this guy do what he did. And that's why Patrick Mahomes told the Chiefs, I want him, pick him. He proved Patrick Mahomes ought to be a personnel man after he gets out of football, because Helaire was unbelievable Thursday night.
Yeah, and it's scary adding him to that offense and him and Mahomes together for the next however many years. They didn't need any preseason. They looked fine, and the Texans, not so much. So,
dude, and of course, that's the one thing too. When you watch a Texans game, all you need to watch for is how quickly will the fire Bill O'Brien tweets start happening, and because they happen every year, and he just keeps surviving. I don't know how it happens.
Well, and then, he trades Hopkins.
Yes.
Hopkins yesterday has a career day, 14 catches, 151 yards, and they upset the defending NFC champions. So that trade doesn't look good either.
Unbelievable. All right, we're going to wrap it up. The last two things I think are cool. I have zero interest in the NBA, but the idea that we could end up with a Lakers-Celtics final kind of excites me.
Very possible.
Kind of excites me.
And actually, Brad, because I have been following it, I would, if I had to put money on it, which I don't put money on any sports because
no.
After some of the NFL games yesterday, it's like, but if I had to put money on it, I would probably guess Celtics and Lakers. The Clippers have to play a Game 7 against my Nuggets. So I would favor the Lakers in the conference final. And
Who had the Nuggets having a shot?
Not even me, but they're hanging in there. And, Boston getting to play Jimmy Butler, former Apache, TJC Apache with Miami Heat, who has done an unbelievable job getting them this far. So, yeah, Lakers, Celtics, man, that would be pretty cool. It's always cool when those two historic teams play each other in the final.
I'm thrilled, too, for the Dallas Stars as we go into this recording. They're one game away. I don't know how that's going to come out, but they could end up in the Stanley Cup Finals. And the last thing I'm going to leave with is I'm sorry, but I have to laugh out loud every time I see, well, the Big Ten's going to have another vote. We may play. We may Thanksgiving. No, we may come to October now.
I know. And what are these? Half of these tweets, I'm like, wait, what does that even mean? Like, how many votes? How many get-togethers? How many closed-door sessions do you have to have? Just figure it out. The rest of the college football landscape is going to be done and into the playoffs.
here's an idea. How about the commissioner and the presidents just tell the truth? Tell them what you know, if you know anything, or admit you botched it, which I
Yeah.
think they did, because now they're watching all these schools playing all day long on Saturday, and they're going, we could have been doing this.
And how do you answer when, you've seen a lot of these kids start tweeting, I mean, getting emotional, like, why can't I play? Someone tell me, why am I watching all these other games and we can't? Like, and how do you answer that? I don't know.
Well, it would be nice for somebody to just step up and say something. They've gone and hidden in a closet someplace. The coaches and the ADs are going crazy, but the commissioner and the presidents, I mean, they're hunkered down someplace, trying to cover up from the shells that are being fired at them. It's the most ridiculous lack of leadership I've seen today.
Yeah.
We see lack of leadership everywhere, but just recently, this Big Ten thing has just been hysterical, the way they've misplayed this all the way through. All right, looking forward to coming weekend. Looking forward to seeing the Big 12 actually play each other. Maybe they'll have a chance to win some games. Huh?
That's the only way they can get a win right now.
We saw the ACC too. Clemson looked like Clemson. I was impressed that Duke gave Notre Dame a game. I thought, okay, this could be good. So, and I'm looking forward to better NFL than we saw from the Cowboys. Good luck to your Broncos tonight.
I'm excited.
And hopefully they'll get a win, and then we can talk about all that stuff next week.
All right, sounds good.
All right, that is Ryan Peterson. I'm Bryan Houston. Be sure to watch this, leave a comment, leave questions. I lied to want somebody to tweet it out because I said we would talk about the Astros and we hadn't got there, and I don't care. But we'll get to it sometime here. They'll be in the playoffs maybe, and we'll talk about it then. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one, and we will talk to you next time.